California's economy is a behemoth on borrowed time, and when the tremors begin, not every city will survive the shake. In 2025, some cities are already choking. Reserves under 3%, $52,000 in average household debt, and housing markets plummeting by $150,000 in value in just months. Entire sectors, tech, tourism, retail, are evaporating overnight. Over 80,000 jobs lost. Homelessness rates above 3%. And shadows falling over homes residents can no longer keep. This isn't just an adjustment. It's the shattering of the California dream. These 10 cities are on the precipice. If recession strikes, they won't slow down. They'll implode. And it starts now. Number 10, Bakersfield. Bakersfield might seem like California's affordable escape, but beneath its oil derricks lies an economy dangerously fragile to recession tremors. As of 2025, Bakersfield's emergency reserves, funds set aside for crisis management, only cover 4.2% of annual city expenditures. That's catastrophically below the 15% threshold recommended for municipal stability. This anemic financial buffer means any significant decline in tax revenue could trigger immediate slashing of essential services like police, fire protection, and road maintenance. Unemployment is another screaming alarm. While California's average sits around 5.2%, Bakersfield's rate has already surged to 8.1%, and that's before a full recession materializes. More troubling, nearly 22% of Bakersfield residents live below the poverty line, compared to just 12.6% statewide. That's more than 1 in 5 households fighting to survive even during supposed prosperity. The housing market here also isn't sheltered. Though the median home price is a relatively modest $385,000, home values are beginning to crater, particularly in East Bakersfield and surrounding Kern County areas. Home equity is survival for many families, and if prices keep falling, tens of thousands have find themselves trapped underwater, owing more than their properties are worth. Compounding the crisis, Bakersfield's local GDP contracted by 1.3% in Q1 of 2025, a warning sign that the city's overwhelming dependence on oil extraction, agriculture, and logistics, industries brutally sensitive to economic downturns, could drag it under rapidly in a contraction. City revenue from oil-related taxes has crashed by 28% year over year as global energy markets shift, further crippling municipal finances. With minimal reserves, exploding unemployment, shrinking economic output, and a population already financially devastated, Bakersfield is a prime candidate for early implosion if a California recession intensifies. It's not just circumstance. It's a structural collapse the city has ignored for decades. Number 9, Stockton. Don't let Stockton's comeback story deceive you. This Central Valley city is carrying catastrophic recession risk in 2025. With a population of just over 320,000, Stockton has a weak economic foundation and extreme industry concentration, which leaves it brutally exposed when the economy contracts. Its emergency fund sits at just 3.8% of annual expenditures, compared to the state median of 8.7%, offering virtually no cushion for unexpected fiscal disasters. The city's unemployment rate exploded to 9.2% in early 2025, up from 6.4% just a year prior. Job losses are mounting in warehousing, healthcare, and municipal services, 3 of the city's largest employment sectors. Meanwhile, Stockton's economic growth was negative in the first quarter of 2025, signaling that full contraction is imminent. Housing affordability has become an existential crisis. The median home price is $485,000, and though that's lower than Bay Area neighbors, it's still crushing for most residents. Household incomes haven't kept pace. The median household income is $68,400, which falls catastrophically below the home price to income ratio considered survivable. Worse, consumer debt levels are metastasizing. Stockton residents carry an average of $49,300 in personal debt per capita with skyrocketing credit card delinquencies. This means countless households are already on the cliff's edge, just one paycheck away from total collapse. And while Stockton receives state funding, it still carries the stigma and structural damage from its 2012 bankruptcy. a haunting reminder of what happens when fiscal discipline evaporates. Overall, Stockton's suffocating cost of living, decimated job market, and microscopic reserves paint a brutal picture. This struggling city could be one of the first to completely unravel if California's economy plunges into recession. Number 8. Fresno. Fresno has been one of California's most quietly vulnerable cities, but in 2025, that vulnerability has transformed into a ticking economic bomb. The population has stabilized around 545,000, but with that stagnation came crushing poverty rates, overwhelmed public services, and infrastructure that's literally crumbling beneath residents' feet. The median home price in Fresno hit $398,000 in early 2024, up 34% from 2020. While some corrections are happening, many buyers are now trapped in homes they can't afford to maintain or sell without devastating losses. And with the Fresno metro area's housing inventory up 31% year over year, the pressure is visibly mounting. Fresno's unemployment rate, currently at 8.7%, has begun climbing sharply amid agricultural sector contractions and retail closures. The city's economy is dangerously dependent on farming, food processing, and low-wage service jobs, 3 sectors that collapse spectacularly during recessions. Alarmingly, Fresno's municipal reserves cover only 4.1% of annual spending, placing it among California's most fiscally exposed cities. If sales tax revenue collapses, schools, emergency services, and basic infrastructure could face immediate paralysis. Consumer debt per household in Fresno averages $46,800, and over 38% of households spend more than 30% of their income on housing. That makes them catastrophically vulnerable to inflation, job loss, or medical emergencies. Meanwhile, city economic output grew just 0.3% in Q1 2025, essentially flat. Fresno's chronic poverty, nearly 25% live below the poverty line, made it a struggle city even during California's boom years. But now it's completely exposed. With negligible financial reserves, saturated housing markets, and a job market concentrated in recession-devastated sectors, Fresno is balancing on a razor's edge, and the fall could be instantaneous if a recession accelerates. Number 7, Riverside. Riverside has long been a destination for families priced out of Los Angeles and Orange County. But in 2025, the Inland Empire heat is concealing catastrophic economic fractures. With a population of 315,000, it's a key piece of metro area exceeding 4.6 million. But its explosive growth has created devastating consequences. Surging inequality, hyperinflated housing prices, and a warehouse-dependent job market that's savagely vulnerable to economic shocks. The median home price across Riverside is $548,000, but in desirable neighborhoods, it exceeds $650,000. Meanwhile, median household income is just $78,200, leaving countless residents financially suffocated. In fact, 42% of Riverside households are considered housing burden, meaning they spend more than 30% of income on housing. Riverside's fiscal reserves cover just 3.6% of its general budget, catastrophically below the 15% safety threshold. In a recession, the city would struggle to maintain even basic services without state bailouts or devastating cuts. The job market is deteriorating rapidly. As of the second quarter of 2025, Riverside's unemployment rate has climbed to 8.9%, and sectors like logistics, retail, and construction have already hemorrhaged jobs. The Inland Empire alone lost over 47,000 jobs between January and May. The city's contribution to regional GDP shrank 1.4% in Q1, confirming the economic collapse has already begun. Adding to the devastation, consumer debt per capita is at $51,200, with crushing rates of credit card and auto loan delinquencies. Many families who relocated from coastal California for affordable living are now discovering Riverside is less affordable and more economically fragile than anywhere they left. If California enters a full-scale recession, Riverside's non-existent fiscal buffers, overinflated housing market, and surging unemployment could trigger a municipal economic meltdown that's faster and more complete than most can imagine. It's no longer just a possibility. It's a countdown. Number 6, Modesto. Modesto's economy has always been precarious, and in 2025, the foundations are visibly cracking. With a population of 218,000, Modesto is dangerously reliant on agriculture, food processing, and service industries, sectors that disintegrate when consumer spending vanishes. During early recession warnings, the city saw a 16% drop in retail sales revenue, with commercial vacancy rates climbing sharply. The median home price in Modesto is $468,000, but prices have declined 11.3% year over year. Investors who flooded in during the pandemic are now fleeing desperately, and housing inventory has exploded 41% compared to 2023. Nearly 24% of homeowners in the Modesto metro are now underwater, owing more on their mortgages than their home's current market value. Modesto's emergency reserves cover just 2.9% of its budget, among the lowest in California. That leaves the city catastrophically exposed with almost no capacity to fund unemployment services or maintain public safety if revenue implodes. With property and sales taxes making up over 68% of city revenue, a spending slowdown could create a devastating cascade. Unemployment is already accelerating, now at 9.6%, and Modesto lost 18,500 jobs between January and April 2025. Especially in retail, hospitality, and agricultural support services. Consumer debt in the city averages $48,700 per household, and delinquency rates on mortgages and credit cards have jumped 3.8% in just 6 months. Even beyond the city center, surrounding Stanislaus County communities are feeling the squeeze as agricultural contracts dry up and service sector employment evaporates. With total overdependence on volatile industries, virtually non-existent reserves, mounting debt, and collapsing property values, Modesto could be one of California's first cities to completely collapse if a statewide recession fully materializes. And in this crisis, there's no escape route. Number 5, San Bernardino. San Bernardino may sit in Southern California sprawl, but its economic foundation is showing catastrophic stress fractures in 2025. With a population of 222,000, the city is brutally tied to warehousing, logistics, and retail, industries already being hammered by reduced consumer demand, elevated interest rates, and supply chain disruptions. Municipal GDP shrank 1.8% in Q1, and commercial activity has dropped 9.2% year over year. Unemployment has exploded to 10.1%, with over 31,000 job losses in the first half of the year. Major distribution centers and retail employers are implementing mass layoffs, and new business applications have collapsed across the city. San Bernardino's workforce participation is down to 58.3%, the lowest it's been in 15 years. The median home price is $425,000, which may seem reasonable for California, but income tells a different story. The median household income is just $52,900. Leaving almost no margin for financial survival. Consumer debt has metastasized, with average household obligations now exceeding $47,500, a 17% increase since 2022. San Bernardino's emergency fund sits at 2.7% of expenditures, barely enough to operate for 3 weeks in crisis. Unlike wealthier California cities, San Bernardino has an almost non-existent social safety net. It ranks near the bottom statewide in per capita public health spending, and its unemployment insurance access is among the most restricted. Meanwhile, the housing market is in freefall. Foreclosures are up 34% compared to the same period last year. Renters, who comprise 48% of the population, are being crushed hardest as wages stagnate and rents remain elevated. In a city where low-wage logistics work is everything and financial buffers are microscopic, a full-blown recession could obliterate entire neighborhoods. San Bernardino is standing in economic quicksand, and once the warehouse belts stop moving, there's nothing to prevent total collapse. Number 4, Oakland. Oakland may look like it's riding the Bay Area's prosperity, but its economic foundation is far more unstable than most realize. With a population of 440,000, the city has become a pressure cooker of soaring costs, rising crime, and business exodus. That apparent growth has brought severely overstretched services and housing costs that have become completely detached from income reality. The median home price in Oakland now sits at $787,000, up 64% since 2019. But the median household income is just $85,600, creating a catastrophic affordability chasm. Nearly 44% of homeowners and 53% of renters are considered cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on housing. Tech sector contraction and commercial real estate collapse have devastated most of the city's recent economic gains, and both are imploding in 2025. GDP contribution stalled at just 0.1% in Q1, and major companies are abandoning downtown Oakland entirely. Retail vacancy rates have climbed to 23%, signaling that businesses are evacuating rapidly. Oakland's emergency fund only covers 3.4% of its annual expenses, far below California averages, and public services are already stretched to breaking. The city has seen police and fire department budget cuts, and violent crime rates remain among the highest in the state, meaning there's virtually no support infrastructure if unemployment starts cascading. Unemployment is climbing, now at 7.8%, and over 28,000 jobs were lost in the first 4 months of 2025, mostly in tech, professional services, and retail. Meanwhile, household debt averages $54,300, and credit card delinquencies are up 4.2% year over year. With an economy leaning catastrophically on volatile tech and real estate sectors, and almost nothing in financial reserves, Oakland is lethally exposed. If a California recession hits with full force, the city could witness a rapid unraveling, especially devastating for the working and middle-class families who've been clinging to survival. The Bay Area's success story is about to become a cautionary tale. Number 3, Salinas. Salinas consistently ranks among California's most economically fragile cities, and in 2025, it's perilously close to total collapse. With a population of 156,000, Salinas has one of the most extreme income inequality rates in America. While agricultural executives profit enormously, nearly 18.7% of residents live below the poverty line, compared to the state average of 12.6%. That means nearly 1 in 5 residents is struggling to survive, even during so-called normal economic times. The city's emergency reserves only cover 2.4% of its budget, one of the absolute lowest in California. That leaves Salinas with virtually zero fiscal capacity to absorb recession's devastation. Local economic output shrank by 1.9% in Q1 2025, driven overwhelmingly by contractions in agriculture, food processing, and service industries, 3 of the city's primary employers. Unemployment has surged to 11.2%, and job losses have ravaged the agricultural corridor that defines the region. Farms are cutting workers, processing plants are shutting down, and service businesses dependent on agricultural wages are going under. Salinas ranks extremely low in healthcare access and education funding statewide, which obliterates long-term recovery capacity. Median household income sits at just $62,800, while median home prices are around $628,000. That sounds impossible, but it's reality. Agricultural workers and service employees are being priced out completely. Over 47% of residents report severe housing cost burdens, and credit card debt averages $46,900 per household. Even worse, the city's infrastructure is disintegrating. Roads are collapsing, water systems are outdated, and public safety resources are completely inadequate. When a recession hits, funding for these critical services will evaporate entirely, with virtually every economic indicator flashing catastrophic warnings: extreme poverty, non-existent reserves, collapsing job market, and failing infrastructure. Salinas isn't just vulnerable to a recession. It's already balanced on the edge of a cliff, and the next economic shock could send it into an irreversible spiral. Number 2, Long Beach. Long Beach was once Southern California's shining example of urban revitalization. But in 2025, that success story is revealing itself as economic overextension masking deep instability. With a population of 466,000, Long Beach has seen housing costs, municipal debt, and income inequality all surge dramatically, transforming its Renaissance narrative into a disaster waiting to happen. The city's emergency fund is just 3.2% of annual expenditures, below state averages, and catastrophically under the threshold needed to survive a recession. Even though Long Beach has economic diversity, much of its recent growth has been port-dependent and real estate-driven, and both sectors are showing severe cracks. The median home price in Long Beach is $748,000, while citywide the median household income is $76,400, which sounds decent until you realize that 46% of homeowners are cost-burdened, and rents have exploded 31% in just 2 years. Unemployment is rising, now at 8.3%, with layoffs in logistics, tourism, and retail hitting hardest. Long Beach's economic contribution contracted 1.1% in Q1, and experts warn that poor activity and hospitality, two major revenue engines, are brutally susceptible to downturns. Port of Long Beach cargo volume has dropped 14% year over year as global trade slows. Debt is another crushing pressure point. Consumer debt averages $56,200 per household, and credit card delinquencies have risen 4.7% since late 2024. Many young professionals who moved to Long Beach during the pandemic boom are now trapped with high costs, vanishing job security, and frozen wages. Public services are also under catastrophic pressure. Long Beach has seen budget cuts to libraries, parks, and community programs, and homelessness is up 28% citywide. With minimal reserves, accelerating economic inequality, and housing markets stretched far beyond sustainability, Long Beach is facing a brutal economic reckoning. The city isn't just slowing, it's headed for a potential collapse if the California recession deepens. And this time, the ocean views won't save it. Number 1, Sacramento. Sacramento tops the list of California cities most likely to collapse in a 2025 recession, and the evidence is overwhelming. With a population of 525,000, Sacramento faces a perfect catastrophe: bloated government dependence, crumbling infrastructure, exploding homelessness, and almost no fiscal safety net. The city's emergency fund covers just 2.1% of annual expenditures, dead last among major California cities. That's barely enough to keep basic operations functioning for 2 weeks if tax revenue collapses. Meanwhile, Sacramento's economic output shrank 2.1% in Q1 2025, one of the most severe drops statewide as state government hiring freezes and budget cuts ripple through the entire local economy. Unemployment has jumped to 9.8%, and more than 41,000 jobs have vanished since January. Major sectors like government services, healthcare, and retail are all in freefall. Downtown Sacramento has lost 19% of its office workforce, while suburban areas have seen construction completely halt on over 80 residential and commercial projects. The median household income is just $71,200, while median home prices hover at $495,000. But in many neighborhoods, housing costs consume over 50% of household income, and infrastructure is actively deteriorating. Nearly 19.4% of residents live in poverty, and over 52% of renters are severely cost-burdened. Debt burdens are crushing. The average Sacramento household holds $52,800 in debt, and credit delinquencies are accelerating rapidly. Utility costs are surging, property taxes are climbing, and basic living has become unaffordable for tens of thousands. Meanwhile, the city ranks poorly in public safety response times and education funding, with almost no public resources to cushion economic shocks. Homelessness has exploded by 34% in just 18 months, creating visible encampments throughout the city and straining already inadequate services. If a deep California recession materializes, Sacramento doesn't just face a downturn, it faces complete systemic failure. From mass job losses to municipal budget collapse, housing crisis to population exodus, the capital city is on course to be the first major California city to go under. The warning signs aren't subtle. The collapse is just waiting for the final push.